It's time to focus on seniors with Helping Seniors TV. The television show designed to make you aware of senior issues and needs, as well as to acquaint you with the resources available to help you age in place and with dignity. Now, here's your host, Joe Steckler.
I'm Joe Steckler, and welcome to Helping Seniors, the television arm of Helping Seniors of Brevard County. Our show is designed to provide you with information on how to develop your own aging and care plans. Our topic today is real estate for seniors. Joining me is Senior Real Estate Specialist Sara Forst Griffin and Broker Associate Cathy Nichols, and both are with Remax Aerospace Realty. And this is Cathy, and this is Sara.
Hello.
So, we're going to talk about some aspects of senior real estate that the average seller and purchaser, buyer, probably don't even think about.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question I said I wanted to ask was, why is it important that seniors know more about purchasing and protecting home purchases? Let's start with you, Cathy.
Well, I think it's real important while they're in the process of deciding if they want to purchase or sell, that they consult their financial advisor, their tax attorney, anybody that would be helping them with the purchase or the sale, such as a family member, because it can change how it might affect their tax returns, maybe their medical benefits if they're considering going into an assisted living home. That comes into play when they get their net from the sale.
What is the point you're trying to make about?
Well, the point is if they were to get the net proceeds from the sale of the property, it could throw them into a different tax bracket. Or if they're getting benefits for medical benefits of any kind, it could change where they fall in that bracket as well. It could kick them out of a bracket.
I didn't even think about that because under the Medicaid rules, you're still allowed to own your home. But if you sell that home, then those proceeds now will take you beyond the $2,000 you're allowed to have.
Yes.
Right, and that's why it's important that they consult with a elder attorney or their financial planner to make sure that they've looked at all those avenues to make sure they're making the best decision.
Yeah, because you can't, if you sell a house, you can't transfer those profits to a family member because of the look-back period. You just can't give that money to somebody. That's a good point to make.
Yeah.
And are there other things about protecting an investment on buying or selling a home that would fall in any close to that category, either one of you?
Well, I think there are a lot of things that when you buy a home, and I think we're seeing a lot in our marketplace now with the market picking up is sometimes there's like a lot of for sale by owner properties, is to make sure that you're getting title insurance, you're getting someone that does a title search and make sure that property's clear of any kind of liens, that there's, that you've had a home inspection, that you've had someone that was your advocate and looked out for your benefit on that purchase. So that's part of what we do. I mean, we
You sort of function like a lawyer, like a home estate attorney would?
Well, we're senior real estate specialists. So in addition to being a real estate agent, we have extra education. It's a designation to help seniors in particular, but just a buyer in general. Those are things that sometimes that they just, if they went and bought a house by themselves from a sign in the yard, they may not have that full protection.
Are you telling me that there are people that dumb today that would buy or sell a house without an attorney or somebody with the qualifications that you two have?
Yeah. And we've had calls after they've already gotten into the situation where we've had to help them dig out from the situation they've gotten into and help them get back on track, because it can be a lot of things that take place behind the scene that people don't realize.
I can just imagine some of the problems. I'm thinking on the radio show, I told you about my own situation. Many years ago, my wife and I bought a home in Falls Church, Virginia, when I was stationed at the Pentagon, and a realtor said, one thing you want to buy is, I think she called it lien insurance.
Title insurance.
Title insurance. And we purchased that. And years later, when we went to sell a house, sure enough, something turned up in the title search that would have caused us a tremendous problem had we not had that title insurance protection. So I guess that we want to believe the best of any situation, but if we're not an expert in that field, we're kind of dumb if we don't use the experts that are available.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a person that gets old and thinks they can do a self-help will,
Right.
or
And
I'm sure you probably come across that.
That comes up in title searches too, where they didn't, they went online to LegalZoom or whatever, and they tried to do a quick claim or a will themselves, and then found out that, that didn't work right for the state of which they live in to be able to transfer title of property. So yes, that's.
And so then that can hold the closing up, and if you have a closing that's a domino effect where it has to close on this date for them to do something on this date, and then we realize we've got some title issues that go back from, like she said, not filing something properly because you did it on your own, it could take months to clear up.
What are some of the things that you could tell our viewers that the two of you turn up or have turned up in your work and working with seniors and buying and selling real estate that they could look out for? Can you think, like a testimonial? What is a good testimonial about what you should or should not do?
Well, I feel like a lot of our seniors are almost like first-time home buyers again. It's been 30, 40 years since they've bought or sold a house, and it's not the same. We don't do things on handshakes anymore, unfortunately. I know, and we meet so many that just go on a word and a trust, and the world's not like that anymore. So that's why we're here, to watch out for our seniors and make sure that we take care of them.
What kind of training have the two of you received that makes you differ from an average agent or broker? What makes your backgrounds, why are you different?
Well, the senior real estate specialist designation is National Association of Realtors designation. So we've taken special education through them to be able to be recognized and have that designation. And not only do we do that, we've also partnered with senior friendly professionals. I mean, we have everything from handymen, financial planners, plumbers, movers, stagers, estate sale people. We have a whole network of people specifically that are focused on helping the needs of the family.
Well, that's something that you brought out when we did the radio show. You just mentioned a whole string of service providers. As a senior broker working with senior real estate, part of your job is to ensure that the property is being presented in the best manner possible, so you have these resources available to help put that property in best appearing condition. That's what I'm assuming.
That's exactly right.
Does that make it? Is that
Yes.
what it is?
Yeah. Well, lots of times the seniors will come meet with us, and we'll go over and preview the home for them and let them know, yes, you need to take care of this item. No, don't do that. You don't need to be wasting your money on that item. You might need to paint a spot on the ceiling or something that we see, and we try to help them get their home in the best condition without them spending money that they shouldn't spend.
A lot of people, and it's something that's just sort of coming up because we've been involved with a sale of real estate on death. Homes, if they're nicely furnished, would probably present themselves better to a potential buyer with the furniture still in instead of it being empty.
And that's part of the assessment we make when we first meet with either the family or a senior is, sometimes you're right. It will present better. Maybe we take out some items and we leave certain items. And then other times it might be better to remove everything. Maybe we need to put some fresh carpet down,
Yes.
put some paint down. And that's what we do. We kind of know the things from working with buyers, what the buyers are looking for, what's going to get them the best price for the property without spending, money they don't need to spend.
Yeah, and another thing is then we talked about was the change in the market, sort of a swinging back to a seller's market now. And what are some of the perils of Pauline as you go back to a seller's market for seniors? But what other things should we be looking at?
Having a plan.
Yes.
Yeah, we listed a house the other day, and we got it under contract in one day. And luckily she had a plan. So when we
Right.
met with her the first time, we said, this is our market. If you price it for your house to sell based on the comparative market analysis that we've done for you, you should have a contract in 2 weeks.
Right.
And she had one in one
She had
day.
4 offers, 10 showings in 24 hours.
Yeah. So make sure you sure you're ready and you have a plan
When you say plan, a plan to move out,
to move
out of the
out.
house?
Be prepared to move forward in your
Right.
life. Yes. Yes.
I never heard anybody mention
Right.
that before.
Right.
Yeah, most people are just so interested in selling a house, they don't think about, especially if you're older.
Right.
Yes.
Because it's not as easy. I mean, you need help, or if you have a family member that's here taking care of a property, then they're from out of area. So we always say, you need to have a plan. Sometimes it's easier for the senior to go ahead and move ahead of time, because showing a house is stressful. Going through the inspection period once the house is under contract, it's very stressful. That's your home. You've lived there. That it's sometimes hard to let go of that. So it's every circumstance is different. Sometimes
Another point that I thought was very interesting that you all discussed with me before was the use of the reverse mortgage. It's a term that's bandied about quite loosely, but I dare say few people really, really understand the ramifications of a reverse mortgage. Some people it's good for, other people it's not so good for.
that's correct.
But there are some other things that you can do with a reverse mortgage that I dare say very people even think about. Can you start us off on that? Because I know both of you have a lot to say about reverse mortgages, and I think it's important for viewers to know this.
Yeah, a reverse mortgage can be a really nice way for a senior to keep their money in their bank and live in a home without making a mortgage payment. But it's not for, I think the myth was reverse mortgages were for someone that didn't have money. The senior does have to invest some of their own money in the property, and it's all based on their age. And when we work with people, we have an excellent lender who we usually turn the senior over to get qualified for the reverse mortgage, and they have to go to counseling. It's
It's a government.
changed.
It's a government-backed loan, so it's it's through HUD. So it's they have to go through counseling, and there's no recourse. So if something happens and the last person has to leave the home, you basically can either sell it, and if there's equity in it, that's your equity. If there's no equity in the home at that point, you basically turn over the keys to the home.
What really happens? And well, you both indicated to me that people can actually buy
Purchase.
a home by using a reverse mortgage. Do you think that's a good idea or not? Or could it be a good idea for certain seniors? What can you tell our viewers that seniors should think a little bit more about buying or selling later in life? What are some of the good points and bad
When
points?
you were asking about the reverse mortgage, if a senior calls and asks my opinion on that, I refer them to our expert, and she will walk them through the steps of deciding if it is the best thing for them to do. And we have sent people to Barbara who she has said it's not the best thing for her to do after reviewing what the price of the house, the market analysis shows, their financial background. So we turn them over to the expert to walk them through the steps, and if it looks like it's a good match, then we help them find a house. And
But the good thing is, I mean, some people may not have the credit score, or they may have debt. Debt to income ratio is a big term in getting a mortgage and financing. So with the home equity conversion mortgage, you do not have to have a credit score. You do not have to have, X amount of money coming in monthly. Pretty much it's based on the age. The younger you are, the more you have to have down. So it's, at 62, you have to be at least 62. It's a 50%. So say you wanted to buy a $200,000 house, you'd have to put $100,000 down, never make a payment, live in that house until you die or have to leave it. You do have to keep the taxes and the insurance current on the home. So that's the only two things you have. And
do you find seniors that actually do that?
yes. So, it's like it's everyone's situation, but even if you're renting, so maybe you say over the course of X amount of years, I'm spending, $1,000 in rent. I'm going to spend, what am I going to spend? And it's a situation where you have to look at all the numbers, run the numbers yourself.
I'm just thinking here, and shoot holes in my theory. Let's say we have a number of people that go to these retirement communities and pay $100,000, $150,000 to buy into it, and then they pay $5,000 or $6,000 a month to live there. So you're looking at $60,000 a year to live there, plus you put $100,000, $150,000, and in some cases $200,000 down. Would it be better if they didn't? Well, if they didn't need the assisted living.
Right, you're
if
right.
it was just rare.
Again, it's
I just can't imagine somebody doing that when they have the option. If they had that $100,000, use a reverse mortgage and put $100,000 down and don't pay anything else except
stay in
taxes.
their own house and enjoy living there. No mortgage. They can go out and travel. They can use the money for medical.
Oh, wait a minute.
So you're not making a payment, but let's say that you've got some medical expenses that you need to be paying for. So instead of making a house payment, you're able to pay for your prescriptions, or have surgery, or
so if you actually if you own a home outright, and so then you want to get a reverse mortgage on that
That's
property,
what I want. Okay,
you can do whatever you want with that money. You can take that money and go buy a second home. Maybe you don't want to sell your house up in Maryland, but you want to come down here for the summer, for the winter. You can take that money and buy a house in Florida, and you don't have to worry about getting a mortgage or go through all the qualifying.
Let's say somebody owns a house and you value it at $200,000. And they can take a reverse mortgage out on that home. How much would they get out of that?
It all depends on the appraised value of the home, their age. There's a whole formula.
Let's say they're 65 years old or 70 years old, and the house appraised at $200,000.
They probably get close to 50% out of it,
And they can use that money to pay their bills if they run short. Because this is something.
or
that-
they get an
Sara
equity
said-
line,
or like Sara said, they could take that $100,000, come down here to Florida, buy a summer home, pay that $100,000 cash for that summer home, and now they've got two properties with no payments on two properties. So they're living in their home, primary home, no mortgage payment. They just paid cash for this one in Florida, no mortgage payment. If they wanted to do that, or they could stick their money in the bank and let it. Maybe they can.
I just read a report from an investment broker that said few people realize that within 10 years, many retirees will simply run out of funds to live. So it would seem that if we're going to be more innovative in the future, that if we use a reverse mortgage wisely,
that's
exactly right.
and we have a good financial planner or a good real estate attorney or somebody that's a senior management specialist in real estate like you all can help them put together a workable plan that will let them live 4, 5, or 6, or 7 years before they.
It's almost like paying yourself instead of paying the bank.
Yeah, or instead of foolishly thinking I've got to leave that house in total for the children,
right.
and actually live miserably themselves, thinking they're doing smart for their children. I don't happen to be a person that thinks that way. I think my children should be able to try to think about helping themselves. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to go throw what I have away, but I just think we all need to do a better job of thinking. And I think real estate, from the different aspects that you all bring to it, I think more people need to talk to people like you so that they understand some of the better options we have in using what we have paid for wisely.
And that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
My goodness, it's just something I think about. What are some of the things that we talked about on the radio? My brain sometimes I think about some of these things. But what are some of the other really pertinent aspects that senior brokers like you that work with the market, what can you bring to a potential buyer or seller? Because you work with both.
I think it's the patience, the compassion, the understanding that not everybody's on a BlackBerry or on email. So like this morning we went and drove the documents that needed to be signed to our customer and met with him in person and had him sign everything.
And he's selling a house too, long distance. So we're facilitating both to try and make it as stress-free, and we're kind of handling both ends on the sale of his house long distance and here, buying one. And it's just the dedication.
Are there many broker-seller teams like yours in Brevard County? No, I'm serious.
That's a good or bad thing.
Are you the only ones?
Oh, there are other senior real estate specialists, but I think it's, that can just be letters after your name. It's what you put into it, and like I said, the passion for it. I mean, I've got an 87-year-old father that I'm the caregiver for, so I've learned a lot along the way about helping him and then helping others, and so it's.
Well, I think, Sara, that's an important part of the equation. In my last job in the Navy, I come in the Navy retirement home, and I took care of 550 people. Our average age was 77. I got to know them very, very well. I learned a lot from those people. I've tried to translate some of what I learned there to what I do now with helping seniors, and I try to make a comparison. How can we build a better box for all to live comfortably in? You've got to have some kind of parameter to make a thing work. And if you think that if you think one size fits all when you get to seniors, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So I'm delighted that when I talk to two people like you that have an appreciation for what the seniors go through and trying to buy and sell, it's so important. And that's an important part of the equation that we didn't touch on before.
Right.
Is the understanding that you can bring to what seniors need to do. How accessible is buying and selling real estate to seniors now? I may not be phrasing that question correctly, but do seniors today feel as comfortable as they ought to feel about buying, or it's mostly selling and it's not buying?
I think it is the selling.
But some are buying, and some will say to me, "You mean they'll give me a 30-year mortgage? I'm 70 years old." Yes, there's no discriminating. You can get a 30-year mortgage. So, I mean, you're working with some people right now that are in their 80s, but even the selling process it's a lot of intricate steps. Buyer getting a mortgage, there's a lot of things that have to happen. We have to go through a home inspection. That takes a lot out of a seller, because you've got someone prodding around. It's like going to the doctor. So you've got someone prodding around in your attic. They're in your electrical box. They're opening all your plumbing, and it's a lot. Then we go. I mean, we're hands-on.
That's another thing. When I was younger, when we were buying, my wife and I were trying in the service, and we're buying homes. Home inspections, I'm sensing that home inspections today are much more rigid than they were then because of all the insurance costs.
You're right.
And we talk about, what is it, Wind
mitigation.
Wind mitigation.
litigation?
Mitigation.
What is that?
Well, that's where you get discounts on your insurance for certain aspects of the house, particularly about how the roof is attached to the house. Do you have
Okay.
hurricane shutters? So you have to have the professional that comes in and answers these questions for your insurance company and has a form and takes pictures. And like Sara said, it can be very unnerving for a senior who has somebody climbing through their house, turning on their water, leaving it running for 15 minutes, run the AC down to 62 and let it run for 20 minutes. I mean, it's...
The lights are all on.
Think of the
And they're
dollars
can I
going
turn
to
the, can I turn the lights off? Why are they turn the stove on? So,
Yes.
and she's right. We're
It's your home, and,
24/7. We're full time. We go to our inspections.
Yeah, but that's one thing we skipped over, and that was inspections, the steps that you all make sure that the buyer sells, and it's just not a rote type thing anymore. It's very specific.
Oh, yes.
And if you don't walk through all those steps and the wickets, you could just open yourself for all kinds of lawsuits
Sure.
going on. And that's one of the things you help prevent.
Right. We really keep to the timelines in the contract to make sure that that each party has done what they're supposed to do by a certain time. You don't want the seller to get to, where at the point where they're packing up their house, and then we find out that the buyer quit his job or, had something. He went out and bought a car, and now he can't get the loan. So there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that we're constantly monitoring and making sure they're taking progress to make sure we do have a successful closing.
Cathy and Sara, what are some of the most often asked questions that you get from people that want to buy or sell? What are some of the most, so that's a typical question somebody asks you.
I think from the seller side is what's going to be their net. What are they going to net at the closing table? And Sara and I always go prepared when we meet with them. We take a closing statement, a net sheet, and we actually show them what they have to pay. There's 3 big items that they have to pay.
Okay, Sara?
Well, I think also is when do I have to be out of my home? Because
That's a
in
good
some
question.
states and in some, maybe in the past, they had like 2 weeks after closing to be out of the home. Now, typically in Florida or just in our area in general, the buyer wants in the house the day of closing, and there are reasons why you don't want to be in the home after you no longer own it. I mean, there's goods and bads about that, but that's always a tricky one. Is like, okay, now that's why we say that plan is so important, because now what do? I don't want to be out on the curb. I don't want the U-Haul sitting here for a week. But that seems to be a common. Or do I have to fix anything? I'm not going to fix anything. I want to sell it as is.
Those are good questions.
Yes.
If you have questions or comments, please call us at 321-473-7770. For more information on senior care and resources, visit our website at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Be sure to listen to Helping Seniors on radio station AM 1300 every Thursday afternoon at 1 p.m. and look for our Helping Seniors newsletter in our center section of Senior Scene magazine each month. I'm Joe Steckler, and thank you for joining us today for Helping Seniors.